Well, hello! I still get excited when I receive a big box in the mail, and today I got a very big box. The nice folks at Creality have sent me their new printer, which is called the Ender-3 V3 KE. Creality have had this entry-level thing called the Ender-3 V3 SE, which looks very low cost and does a lot of good features. The KE seems to do a little bit more, so it's a little bit more expensive, but should be a lot better. So I'm interested to test it out. Previously, my Creality printer was the Simoon V1, which is a very nice, again a good entry-level printer, all enclosed, very friendly. This is a bit more traditional, and I'm interested to see how this goes, because I've built one which is sort of like this, but that was many years ago, and so not very good. And so I want to put this together and see how it is. I haven't got it out of the box yet because I thought it'd be useful to open up the box, show you what's there, and see how easy it is to put together and get printing with. So let's open it up and see. Okay, let's open up the box. So I'm doing it at a very weird angle to the camera. There is some foam, and we start off with the quick installation guide. It looks like maybe something to poke up the nozzle, this thing, nozzle cleaner maybe. Bunch of tools and stuff. Obviously be reading the instructions to see what these are properly. Power cable, although that is a European one? They did actually send me another box with some filament in, which I noticed had a UK power cable, so that's okay. This whole thing just lifts out, but elsewhere, this is obviously the little console screen for showing what you're doing and stuff. Presumably that's touchscreen then. This is, I don't know what this is. It's something. It's definitely something. We'll find out. And that looks like the spool holder, doesn't it, quite frankly. Then this, I think we've got everything out of that. This lifts out. And I think you can see in there we've got the whole machine ready. Okay, then we've got this bit. The main XY arm, I presume. Oh, no, hang on. Maybe it's that way. The ZX. And here's the base with the whichever direction that is. Ugh, it's pretty heavy. Right, that seems to be a lot. Let's have a look at the instructions and see how it goes together. Just on my phone now, so excuse us out. I was just going through the list of contents, make sure I've got all the screws and everything. Got my actual power plug from the additional thing they sent me. But once again, this happened last time. This happened with the Simoon. My USB flash drive, I have not got one. Nothing there. No USB flash drive. I don't know if it's me. I don't know if they just forget or they think it's review on. We're not going to send him a USB flash drive. Who knows? I'll have to figure stuff out by myself. What's on there is essentially, I think, the manual and some, prints you can do that are already sorted out for it. But let's get this thing built. And essentially, we pop the gantry frame into these holes here. We put a couple of screws in that way, and then some free screws either side underneath. This is it just slotted in. It needed two hands because there's a little cable you have to poke through to connect to the other end, and this stretches out a bit. So we're going to put down two screws there, and then we can flip it up and put three screws in underneath each of the sides there, which will hold it together. Gantry installed, fairly simple. We've got the couple of screws in there. Then we flipped it up to put in the three screws there, the other three screws there, and we join that wire we just put through. Next step was to secure the screen in, a couple of screws, and then it connects with that wire there. Then we're putting on the reel holder and the filament detection thing, which I guess the filament passes through this, and if there's nothing there, it tells you about it. It's got an arrow pointing upwards, but the instructions to put it on this way, I don't think it matters. I think the only thing that matters is it has to detect this sort of filament in the middle there. So that sort of moves around and stuff. I think now we just need to connect up these wires. Okay, quite a nice system, this one. So we put the big wire into this, the whole hot end assembly here, and then we've got this plate to clamp down. That's obviously going to keep it in and stop any fatigue on the join there. So let's do that next. So that's nice and secured. So now let's turn it round and do the back bit. Again, quite nicely marked. You've got this bit here which it wants you to slot between there. You've then got the stepper motors to plug in there and there. Pretty straightforward stuff, really. So that's stuck through, that motor connected, and that is it. We are ready to power on. I think that would have taken about 10 minutes all in all. I obviously took a bit longer because I kept stopping to film stuff, but yeah, pretty quick. You can see it's got this little probe just behind the nozzle, which it uses to do its auto leveling. Just know how many probes it's going to do around the bed. The answer to the auto leveling probe is it takes 25 measurements. You can see it doing its little thing, going all over the place, doing its little touches, which is pretty cool. Oh yeah, and it starts to fill in different little ratings for them. It's pretty cool. I kind of look forward not to shoving a piece of paper under things and trying to figure out what my offsets may or may not be. Okay, I've loaded up with what's called Hyper PLA, which I think is like regular PLA, but it's designed to go faster. But because I didn't have the USB stick they give, I'm doing this from Creality's Cloud Print, and I'm printing a Benchy, which is presumably going to go at regular speed. We'll see what happens. Okay, we've got the Benchy going. It's taking about an hour. This thing apparently can do a Benchy that is, in about 15 minutes. But not when you download someone else's models and it just slices it for any old thing. It's also not particularly useful, I guess, having black on black printing if I want to try and show you this, but we'll see what happens. You can hear the dual fans fire up there. It's not a quiet thing. It's not overly noisy for a printer, but I've had mine in a sort of sealed box, which is a lot quieter. Now, while that carries on printing, looking like it's doing, fairly quick job, but still slow overall in the result, I went ahead and I downloaded Creality Print on my computer, which looks like this. And what I was able to do from that is just go to device and say, list me my LAN devices, and it went ahead and showed me my one. And I can go ahead and see what's happening there. Fairly handy, although I would like to use other slicers. I quite like the Prusa slicer, but that doesn't even know about this printer for getting presets or what Hyper PLA is or anything. So I guess we use this for now and see what happens. Oh dear, we've had a spaghetti incident. Alert, alert, let's cancel everything. Bed adhesion stopped. I think because this had a setting of having the bed at like 40 odd degrees. I would normally have a bed at sort of 60-ish degrees for doing this sort of thing. Okay, plan B, let's get this up on Creality Slicer and say we're going to LAN print it. This says 47 minutes, still not what I'm after, but let's see what happens. We're going to do send G-code, one-click printing, I don't know, send G-code. Okay, one-click printing. So this takes 47 minutes. It is at the moment heating the bed before it does the nozzle. Over here we've got another pretty picture. It just tells us the heated bed is coming up to temp. It hasn't started heating the nozzle yet. Well, 10 minutes in, and this one's sticking much better because it's got a 60-degree heated bed. I quite like this sort of filling it in from the bottom to show how much is done. Of course, we've got a similar story over here, which we got the layer and the heated bed and how much the temperature is varying and stuff. Quite cool. Okay, we are just about done, 99%, 1 minute to do, been going 52 minutes. Pretty cool, it looks pretty good from here. Obviously I'll have a closer look when it finishes, which is now. Just looking at the print mat, obviously this has already been taken off. There's this section here it uses to kind of clean off the excess when it first starts, which is a pretty nice touch. They had that on the Simoon as well, and this obviously is one of the lift up magnetic things you can take off completely to get your prints off easier. Well, that's pretty high quality Benchy. If you look there, you can see the lines are all very even. A little bit of stringing just between that window at the back there, but the ridges And everything is looking very smooth. Little few just indentations there, but they are extremely minor, so that's very good. Next up, I printed this elephant. I specifically chose it because it had articulating leg joints. We have to break away internally the piece of filament. The elephant printed 0% infill, so it's very light, and the leg joints broke away easy, so we can move those independently and articulate. Just a tiny bit of a little rough edge there, but the rest of it's very good. The legs move, and things like these really thin ears came out very nicely, so that's cool. He sent me over what would be on the USB stick, and what we've got in there is this file with the user manual. You can see that just in the background there. The software which I already installed, the operation video, which is just a short video giving you some basic unpacking and putting it together guide. The material guide, quite useful, talks about printing and bed temperatures of different materials you might use there. It's just a single sheet which looks like that, but quite useful. You've got these 3D models here, which has got STL for a boat and this thing that prevents filament whining. But more intriguingly here, you've got this boat G-code, which is the fast print. So we have to try it. Okay, we just got the G-code over from Creality for the fast Benchy. Not 15 minutes, but 17 minutes. That's significantly faster. The reason I want to try this is because often I'm doing like a part I've designed in Fusion 360 and I print it, and then I have to make a couple of little changes and I print it again, and sometimes that can take hours. I'm not suggesting the 17-minute or fast print is your final thing, but it's even more rapid prototyping, so you can make changes, you can be happy with it, and then you can go and sort of print it at slower speed to get the best quality you can. But I've no idea what quality it's going to give, so let's find out. So I did record all of this because I wanted to see exactly what it would look like. I won't make you watch it all in real time. I'll speed some stuff up and then we can go back to it. This is it going very fast. The reason I wanted to show you what it looked like in real time is because there is a lot of vibrations and movement in this. This is the actual speed, and you being next to this thing, you think like, wow, this is going so rapidly back and forth, it's causing a lot of vibrations. This seems like, you know, not the safest way to get prints off, but fair play to them. It does print extremely quickly, and it does actually come out quite decently, which I'll show you in a second. Well, this is our 1 hour Benchy. This is our 15-minute or 17-minute Benchy. I have to say, I'm really impressed. I thought it's going to be rough as anything. If you look at the detail on the 1 hour one, you can see it seems, this is a 0.2mm layer. This one seems slightly less resolution. And on top you can kind of see some of that detail. But my goodness, this is... it's really very difficult to pull the differences apart. Aside from the fact this looks, maybe this is 0.4 or something. It's bigger than 0.2, but it's still smooth. It's really smooth. I want to know exactly what the right settings are. It's not just a case of like upping the speed overall, because you could see there was bits when it went slow and then there's bits when it went very fast, but it's really good. Impressive. Now, I did talk to Creality and said, hey, that was really fast, that Benchy. How do we make everything go that speed? Even if it's just like the initial print and then you can, you know, change it. And the answer is you can't. Because what happened is Creality took that Benchy and then they hand manipulated the G-code when it was sliced in order to exploit what they could do about going very fast in certain areas and then slowing it down in others. At the moment, slicers aren't advanced enough to... I think some of them have different features where they can go different speeds and even different thicknesses of filament, but that one was very specifically tailored just to work for that print. So if you tried to just print anything that speed, it would go a bit crazy. So that is not typical of the speed that you can get. And as you will see, because I'm doing this after the rest of the video, there is a reason not to go that fast all the time. Thinking of something a bit bigger. This vase should just about come up 213 millimeters, and this will take 220. So this is going to take 7 hours 34. We're going to attempt to time lapse it and see what we get. So I wanted to do this print because you need to be able to leave your printer maybe overnight and just expect it to be able to handle a very big print. So I was interested to see how it would go, and I was there for sort of the first 3-4 hours, and it seemed to be going well, although I was a little bit worried that as it was really moving the print head very fast, and it's not necessarily printing very quickly, but as it moves around it really does jerk the entire machine around. I was slightly worried about it, but it seemed to have got far enough where the base looked okay and it had a reasonable amount of adhesion there. Of course the base is much smaller compared to what the top's going to look like, so that was a little bit of a worry. But we kept going, and of course as soon as I left it, about half an hour after it would seem, and went downstairs and was watching something, the whole thing came off. And so when I came back, what we had is this thing that had disappeared off the end. You see it go there, and we had a very, very large pile of spaghetti. This is like 2 hours worth of the printer extruding where nothing's there, and you end up with a mess essentially. Well, I started, so I had to finish, so I decided how can we work around this, and I thought the best way was to print it on a raft. So I went back and I added the raft, which is just obviously an option in the slicer. If you see the light disappears because I forgot I was doing a time lapse and I kept turning the lights off. But yeah, we printed a big raft for this one, and I hoped it would do the job of having a much better adhesion, because you've basically got a lot more material there which will stop it going away. Also, what I wanted to do was take a look when this was getting to the point it failed last time. There's me turning the lights off again, and I filmed just a little bit of it to see what was going on. So here we are 5.5 hours in the revised one, and when this goes quickly you can see this whole top section shake about a bit. You can see it's vibrating there, and I think that passes down, and obviously that sort of vibration was causing the plate adhesion to go. It's only going to happen when you've got very tall things with less of an adhesion on a very small bit. But I don't think going very, very fast here is always the best way for the best quality, but hopefully this will finish properly and we'll have a good look at it. So here's the rest of the time lapse, and unfortunately with this sort of printer where the bed moves back and forth, you don't get that lovely sort of organic, the print is growing in the time lapse because it moves so much. If you could attach the printer to the base you'd be okay, but you've seen the amount that the base moves around very rapidly. I can't think that we won't get a load of vibrations or movement in the camera itself. But anyway, this finished successfully, thankfully, and that was that for 8 hours or so. Yay, it finished. So this is about 214 mil. This will go up to 220. I haven't taken it off yet. I often feel, rather than taking this off, if you just let the print cool down, yeah, then it completely just loses adhesion and this just lifts off. Now, one thing I did notice about this, when it was wobbling around a lot at its maximum, it seems to go a bit skewy. You can see this bit here is very, very good, and then the bit where it's fattest just looks a little bit rough, and then as it pinches back in again, it goes better. That is just literally the speed of this thing and the vibrations it's causing, I think. Obviously we can slow down the speed, and the whole idea of this hyper TPU is it dries very quickly. That's why it can go so quickly. It doesn't have to wait as long. But this is printed out okay. I think I would just make it a bit slower really and take the hit on the time. But at least I know, you know, if I print a decent brim or raft, that I can leave this just printing on its own and it will come up with fairly decent results. My friend Bob asked me if I could try printing this compressor wheel for a turbo. He tried printing it and he was having some issues with his own printer. We're in Creality printer here, so I just wanted to take you through the land print which I've been using. If we go ahead and slice that essentially by using preview, it looks like that. And if we go and say land printing, confirm, and then we just pick this printer, we've already connected to it, and say one-click printing, you will see the print is loading, and then it gets on and does it. If we have a look at details, it looks like this, and we can monitor stuff from here. What we can see is the hotbed has started to ask to warm itself up, and when that gets up to temperature it will start heating the nozzle. Here's some of my previous prints I've already done, and we got various bits of control here. And if we go and look at the printer itself, we can see that that's come across, and basically all the same stuff showing here as will show on the screen, and that will get going soon and we'll see what happens. Okay, here it is. Took just under 2 hours. Looks pretty good. Little bits of tiny things here. You can see there's a little sort of line up there, but nothing that I can feel in my hand, so yeah, quite happy with that. So I decided to try some regular PLA that I had lying around from my other printer, and it's got this option in the printer where you can do an extrude or retract, and if you do a retract, what it will do is go up to temperature and wind the filament backwards until it comes out completely, which is, I guess, pretty good, but I think it's much easier just perhaps to heat the nozzle up and hold down the little sort of release button and pull it very quickly. But this worked fine. This is my preferred method. Hold down this little button and pull sharply and you get a nice clean release. You load down in the same way. You push the little tab down, you push the filament in as far as it can go, and at that point you can press the extrude button, and I usually extrude about 30mm and you should get a bunch of filament coming out the ends. Very useful when you're changing over, so you make sure the colour changes from one to the other. You'll see at the moment I'm printing with this orange Amazon Basics PLA, and we've got this little Benchy that's coming out, and that's doing okay. However, it took me a while to sort this out. I think one of the problems is that if I look at the generic PLA preset in the Creality slicer, it wants to print at 230 degrees with a bed temperature of 45 degrees using the full speed, and doing that we got this part here, and if you look at this, we've got some warping here and some warping there. It didn't lay the filament down right. We got up to here and the part left the bed and just slipped around, so that wasn't printing very well. So I tried altering some of the things in there. I could alter the temperature, but the speed, even though I set up my own profile and said I want basically to run this at 100mm instead of 300, which is the default speed, as you can see now it's going pretty slowly. So in order to get the speed down, what I had to do is slice on my Prusa slicer using my old settings for the Simoon and do that, and this resulted in this print where we've got the resolution's much better. We don't have any warping. We've got good resolution there, but it seemed like the bed adhesion went again. So what I did then is printed out, as you can see here, this brim, which is held very nicely. And maybe that's because what we're looking at here is a textured surface, and previously on the Simoon I was printing on a smooth surface. But we got a workaround for it. It is much slower, because we are literally printing at 1/3 of the speed. Now I might be able to go back and experiment with sorting that out. At the moment I've just gone with the kind of, well, this worked on my old printer, so it'll work on this one. It kind of shows how good the Hyper PLA is at both getting the bed adhesion and can handle the speed. But anyway, this is regular filament coming off. But just talking about how to use other slicer, because I'm still printing over the net, I'm just doing things a bit differently. I think it's time to delve into exactly what software is on here, because at first I read some stuff saying it was Clipper based. When I was setting this up, it got me to scan the Creality Cloud thing, and it's very much Creality branded all over their slicer. What is actually running under here? Well, Creality told me it was based on Clipper and developed from there. So let's look at that a bit more detail. Okay, so what software is the printer running? It is a little confusing, because the first thing it told me to do while I was going through the printer setup is scan this QR code into Creality Cloud. And Creality Cloud is the little smartphone app where you can download models and slice them and send them to the printer. The last one had it. I didn't really use it because I didn't want to use that service, and it was never a hassle because like the printer's there, so I was always like putting stuff onto SD card, moving it to the printer, but it meant I couldn't use the camera and stuff unless I was actually using the cloud solution. It's a little bit more confusing now because you've seen that we've got the Creality Slicer app, which is Creality Print, which is this thing here. And as I've shown you, if you want to go ahead and You know, you can slice something, then you can go to land printing, and we get this little device thing there, and we can look at it in detail, and you can see, like, here's my prints that I've worked on previously and stuff like that. And using that, you notice it's got this import thing here. I could say import, and I could get G-code and put it in there and do it that way. And that's how I could get something in from, for example, Prusa slicer here. If I sliced that and got G-code, I could upload it to there. Or, because I noticed that this was saying, like, oh, it's at 192.168.1.53, I thought, what if I just open up a web page there? And lo and behold, I get a web page which gives a little bit more, because it also gives the bed mesh. If I had a camera there, it would show me the camera, and I can do the same there. I can choose one of these ones we've done previously and say start printing. I can import G-code, I can move the printer about, all the same sort of stuff, and I can monitor it very nicely here. And again, when a print finishes, Creality Cloud sends me a little note to say, hey, it finished okay. So it's a little bit weird. So what is it actually running? And I have to thank RC Shim for this. I saw he made a post on Facebook about upgrading the software of it, and I asked him what's it running, because I was unfamiliar with the stuff, and he said it was based on Clipper. They took the code, they modified it, they did their own thing, and they called it Creality OS. The weird thing is that Clipper doesn't have a web interface, and obviously this is a web interface, so it's something else there. But he did a whole video about, like, installing something called Mainsail and Octoprint and other stuff. I'm not very familiar with all these open source printing bits, but it's something I'm going to look at, not in this video, but perhaps the next one, because what I'd like to have is a camera here. Now, I tried plugging the camera in and it didn't work, and it wasn't that it wasn't recognised, and the reason I know that is because part of the last firmware upgrade actually did this thing where you could have root access to it, and as soon as you enable root access, it means you can go ahead and SSH to the printer using the Creality 2023 password for root, if I can spell it right, capital C. And if I look at what's running there, you can see that's clearly it was based on Clipper, but you know, they've got things like where it just said web server, so I don't know exactly what they're running there, but that's something I might explore in the future. But certainly this was based on Clipper. There's clearly a web interface to it which looks a little bit like Mainsail but doesn't have all the bits. But yeah, I'll explore that in the next video. But I kind of like the fact that it can land print now. I'm a real convert to this. I didn't think it was hassle to, like, put something on an SD card or USB stick, or just go across here and plug it in. But having it inbuilt in the slicer is really good. And again, stuff like Prusa slicer, if you've got a favourite slicer, this can interface with different types of software, but it will not connect to this one. So I think it's running something slightly different in what they're doing there. I don't know if it's been restricted in some way, so it only works with the Creality slicer. Don't know. Stuff to look into for the next video. Okay, I thought we'd try some TPU next. So we've got this GoPro 10 mount, which needs some supports, and I don't know how TPU deals with the tree type supports, but since the Creality slicer does it, and then, you know, you don't get all this regular support in this area, I thought I'd give that a go. And I'm just using the regular generic TPU 1.75 mode here that it's got built in. And after several hours, here's the result. The good thing about TPU is it's very good at sticking to the base. In fact, this is stuck very hard on. What I might have to do to get this off is just heat up the bed so it's a bit more pliable then. Well, there's the finished piece, and there's my GoPro 10 in there. That's all good. The trees came off remarkably easy, with the exception of the one that went through here. Because it joined here, not a problem. Joined the top, not a problem, but it also went through the middle and got caught up in the hole there. So I've had to spend a bit of time just taking snips. Most of it pulled away, but that was a bit of a pain. But yeah, the result is good. And if we take it out Obviously it's TPU, so it's pretty squishy. It's quite thick, so it's not as squishy as it could be, and obviously those have to hold to a certain extent, which they will do when putting them out. But that's good. That's ready to go on, like on a quad or something. And looks pretty tidy print. You can just see where we've got a couple of connected bits, but yeah, all good. So another thing you might want to do is print multiple parts at once, and often the case as the head moves between each part, you can get stringing, and there's a more option for the parts to lift up. So I'm printing 4 calibration caps here to see how it does. This is what it should look like, so we'll see how it goes. And now it's getting up to speed. So this is, will it be too fast for these little things to keep adhesion? Well, we'll soon find out. Okay, that's an interesting situation. What happens if you've got one that falls apart and the other's all okay? you get this. I don't know. Do I just let them finish? I suppose so. They're almost done, aren't they? We just get this pile of nothing in the middle and the others are fine. I suppose we'll judge it on those. Well, I come back and another one's come off. So this one managed to jump onto the floor. This one managed to lose adhesion at the last minute. These two have stayed on. It's cooled now, so these are should remove very easily. And if you look between these two, that's not great that we haven't got all of them. What we can see is very good corners. I can't see any issues with stringing, as you might expect, as it goes from model to model. This printer does control the filament in the nozzle very well. You never get anything just leaking out. What is clear from this, at this speed and this type of bed, I think always have either a raft or a brim or something, because you need proper adhesion. And these weren't giving enough. These managed to 2 out of 4 managed to go. I mean, do I redo it with the brims? Why not? What else am I going to do? Yeah, brims definitely work a lot better, and I can see there's no particularly anything between these models. Oh, we got a little bit of just a tiny wisp or something there, but the other ones are fine. It's absolutely easy to remove these. They come off pretty cleanly. The previous ones, they do actually do something called an auto brim, and if you look at there, you can just see there's just this little tiny bit of a brim over there. They're actually slightly harder to get off. Not so much in these ones, but because there's just a little bit of brim there, it makes it a little bit trickier to get it all, as opposed to when you've got a big brim, it comes off relatively cleanly and easily. So I'm going to leave it there for this video. There's a lot more I can do with it. I've been printing fairly solidly for like a week and a half, which is not necessarily enough time to get to know a printer, because each print takes so long. It's like, oh well, I'll come back to it the next day and do some more. But you know, we've got a variety of stuff: big prints, little prints, delicate prints, lots of Benchies, TPU bits, and pretty much it handled everything quite well. It really does a very good job with its hyper PLA, although there were still some times when it lost adhesion to the bed. I think with this printer, where it wants to move around so fast, and it's not necessarily the printing speed itself, it's how it, when it's not printing, it moves to the next place. It really jerks it about, and that can really cause adhesion issues, it would seem. So if you want to print very fast, a skirt or a brim, they come off really easy. There was a great big one attached to this, but it's no problem getting off. And I think I'm going to have to do some more messing around when I'm printing standard PLA, because right now I'm printing it very slowly. And I think what I did with my earlier printer, the Simoon V1, it printed very, very well at the beginning, and then as it got later on, it started not adhering very well on that first layer. And it can be that really you have to look at these magnetic sheets as consumable items. They work very well when they first start, and they get worse and worse. But as far as my Simoon went, what I did, I changed the layer preferences. So on my first layer I would print very slowly at a higher temperature, and then after that layer, when I knew it was nicely down, I would speed it up, because I knew I could stick PLA to PLA very easily. So it's a case of messing around with that and seeing how fast I might be able to go on PLA without like losing quality, making sure it cools enough to keep printing it and stuff like that. But overall, I'm very impressed with the printer. It's been easy to set up. I love the land printing idea. I didn't know how much hassle it was. Well, it wasn't hassle, but just going to there to have to mess with the printer instead of just doing it all from my desktop makes a lot of difference to me, because I don't have to think about it. I just like click a button and it just goes and does it. Yeah, I'll be doing some more of that, and you know, I'm already doing some bits and bobs, like the one you saw earlier, which looks a bit of a weird geometric shape, is just for a camera case, so I can sort of split items up and put them in easier. And I will continue to print on this and change things as I go, and that's the way it comes. But I'll make a follow-up video, because I want to see what we can do with different open source software. Can we add the camera in? Creality does a camera which apparently has some AI which recognises spaghetti, which would have been quite useful, because it would have stopped the 2 hours of spaghetti spewing out. But oh well, we'll see what happens. Anyway, this was the Creality Ender-3 V3 KE, which was very kindly supplied by Creality. It's over there. I would normally hold it up, but it's really heavy. And of course there's links down below for a way you can check it out if you want to. So I hope that review's been helpful, and I will catch you next one. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.